Seduction isn't magic, my friend. It's psychology plus self-control, and most men use neither. You know the feeling. You meet a woman you're drawn to. The conversation is fine, she laughs. She seems comfortable around you, but nothing catches fire. You walk away thinking, I was respectful, I was honest, I was available. Why didn't anything happen? Meanwhile, you've seen other men do less than you, say less than you, and somehow women lean into them, touch them more, remember them longer. Here is the brutal truth. Women are not moved by effort. They are moved by how you make their nervous system feel. Seduction is not about dirty talk, tricks, or pretending to be someone else. It is the silent art of controlling your presence, your pace, your mystery, and your emotional rhythm so deeply that her body reacts before her mind can explain it. Tonight we're going to break down how to do that in a way that feels almost unfair. We'll pull from dark psychology and Stoic philosophy, so you stop chasing reactions and start shaping perception. When you understand this, you will stop asking, "Does she like me?" and start noticing how fast she leans in, stays close, and keeps coming back. And yes, this works even if you are older, divorced, or feel out of practice with women right now. Let's get into it. Number 1, the silent presence that pulls her in. My friend, let's start with the truth most men never understand. Women aren't drawn to noise, they're drawn to presence. Not what you say, not what you brag about, not the clever lines you practiced on the drive over. They respond to the man whose energy fills the space without trying. The man who doesn't rush to impress. The man who lets silence work for him instead of panicking to fill it. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in real life. Michael, 56, from Ohio, met a woman named Rebecca, 52, at a friend's rooftop gathering. Most men around her were performing. Loud stories, exaggerated jokes, trying to be the center of attention. But Michael didn't chase any of that. He stood with relaxed shoulders, slow gestures, and a calm, grounded stillness. He listened more than he spoke. When Rebecca walked over, she felt his presence before he said a single word. Later, she told him, "You were the only person in the room who didn't feel like he needed the room." That is silent presence. Now compare that to someone else. Thomas, 54, from Nevada, was talking to a woman named Julia, 49. The moment she gave him a little attention, he started oversharing. His job, his divorce, his fitness routine, his car, his weekend plans. Everything was fast, loud, eager. Julia wasn't turned off because he was a bad man. She was turned off because there was no space for her to feel anything. His energy was too forward, too available, too anxious. Silent presence creates tension. Overexposure kills it. Here's the psychological foundation behind this, and it's exactly what the video So Luck was teaching. A woman's attraction begins in the nervous system, not the mind. Her mind interprets. Her body reacts. Silent presence sends 3 unconscious signals. First, that you're not seeking validation. Second, that you're comfortable with yourself. Third, that you can lead her emotional rhythm rather than mirror hers. That last part is where most men fail. They see a beautiful woman, and suddenly their tempo speeds up. Faster speech, nervous laughter, jittery movements. But a man with silent presence slows everything down. His breathing is deep. His eye contact is steady. His movements are deliberate. His voice doesn't jump. It settles. And without saying anything seductive, he becomes seductive. This is why older men, when they drop the insecurity, have an advantage. You've lived enough life to not be shaken by a conversation. When you carry that natural calm into your interactions, women feel it instantly. It's the opposite of desperation. It's the opposite of rushing. It's the opposite of performing. Silent presence also creates curiosity. When you're not giving everything away, she leans in. When you're not rushing to fill silence, she fills it. When you're not trying to impress, she tries to understand you. Attraction grows in the gaps, not in the noise. If you've ever noticed a woman become more interested when you slowed down instead of speeding up, comment, "I feel this shift." Stick with me, because next we're going into the kind of mystery that gets into her head and stays there. You don't want to miss what's coming. Number 2, the mystery she feels, not just sees. Folks, let's be real. Most men hear the word mystery and immediately think they need to act distant, cold, or confusing. That is not mystery. That is immaturity. Real mystery is something she feels, not something you fake. It's the quiet sense that there is more to you than what you show, more layers than what you reveal, and more depth than she can grasp in one conversation. And that feeling pulls her in stronger than any line, compliment, or performance you try to give her. Mystery works because it taps directly into her imagination. What she imagines will always be more compelling than what you explain. When a woman fills in the gaps with her own curiosity, she becomes invested in knowing more. And you can only create that effect when you refuse to dump your entire life story on the table the moment she gives you attention. This is exactly what the Stoic emphasizes. Seduction is about selective reveal. Not hiding, not performing, selective reveal. You don't rush to offer everything. You let her earn access to different parts of you. That scarcity of information creates what psychologists call cognitive tension. The space where her mind keeps returning to you even when you're not around. Stoicism teaches the same principle. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When a man is grounded, calm, and inwardly aligned, he gives off an energy she feels, not one he forces. That internal steadiness creates natural mystery. A Stoic man doesn't need to talk constantly. He doesn't need to overshare. He doesn't need to convince anyone to understand him. He reveals only what serves the moment, and that restraint creates an aura she can't fully read. And here's the part that flips attraction instantly. Mystery is not about saying less. It's about saying what matters. When you speak with intention, slowly, clearly, with pauses that allow her to feel your presence, she sees a man who chooses his words, not a man who spills them. When you reveal parts of your life naturally, instead of dumping them for approval, she senses a man who is whole without her. And when you stop trying to impress her, she becomes curious about what you're holding back. Mystery also works because it creates emotional pacing. Most men reveal too much too soon because they fear losing her interest. But the man with mystery knows his value isn't fragile. He knows discovery takes time. He knows curiosity grows when he doesn't rush the process. And because he thinks this way, he moves this way. Slowly, confidently, intentionally. This is the kind of mystery women feel in their body, not just their mind. It's not about being unreadable. It's about being layered. It's about having an inner world shaped by purpose, discipline, and self-respect. An inner world she can sense but not fully access without effort. And here's the truth most men never learn. A woman isn't chasing the man who tells her everything. She's chasing the man who makes her want to know more. If you've ever seen a woman lean closer, ask deeper questions, or study you a little longer when you spoke calmly and revealed less. Comment, I've seen this. Stay tuned, because next we're breaking down the emotional rhythm that lowers her guard and makes her feel pulled towards you without even realizing why. You don't want to miss it. Number 3, the emotional rhythm that weakens her guard. My friend, let's get honest for a second. Attraction isn't built through intensity, it's built through rhythm. Women respond to emotional pacing the same way the body responds to music. Too fast and it becomes noise. Too slow and it becomes boring. But the right rhythm, delivered by a grounded man, drops her guard without her even noticing. And most men never master this because they're too busy reacting instead of leading. Let me show you what I mean with something real. Think about Mark, a 48-year-old contractor from Texas. He recently started seeing a woman named Laura, a 44-year-old marketing manager. Mark really likes her, so at first, he did what most men do. He overengaged. He texted too quickly. He tried to keep the conversation alive even when it was clearly fading. And what happened? Laura enjoyed the attention for a moment, but eventually she pulled back. Not because she wasn't interested, but because the rhythm was off. It felt rushed, pressured, unsteady. Then Mark slowed down. He didn't disappear. He didn't play cold. He simply matched the moment instead of smothering it. He replied when he was actually available. He took pauses when the conversation naturally reached a quiet point. He didn't try to force meaning into every message. And suddenly, Laura leaned in. She asked more questions. She initiated the next date. The same man, the same woman, but now the rhythm was right, and her guard softened. Women open up when they feel the man they're dealing with is calm enough to let things unfold, not force things to happen. That's emotional rhythm, and it comes from your inner state, not your strategy. This is exactly what the Stoics meant when they said you must govern yourself before you try to influence the world. Seneca put it simply, a man ruled by emotion is a slave. In relationships, that means when you rush, when you panic, when you grasp for reassurance, you lose power. Your energy becomes chaotic. She feels that chaos before she even understands it logically. But when your pacing is slow, intentional, and grounded, she feels safe. Not in a soft, romantic way, but in a primal, body-level way. She feels like you won't collapse under pressure. She feels like you won't chase her approval. She feels like she can relax into the moment instead of managing your emotions. And here's the part men always overlook. Emotional rhythm isn't about withholding. It's about timing. It's not about acting uninterested. It's about stopping the urge to rush just because you're afraid to lose her. When you move at a steady pace, she feels your confidence. When you allow silence instead of filling every gap, she feels your presence. When you let natural tension build, she feels your masculinity. This is how you lower her guard without manipulation. You're not controlling her emotions. You're controlling your own, and she responds to the steadiness. If you've ever slowed down the pace with a woman and suddenly watched her become warmer, softer, or more present, comment, I felt this. Don't go anywhere. Because the next part will show you how to use subtle tension to make her lean toward you without you taking a single step forward. Number 4, the eye contact that melts her resistance. My friend, here's the truth most men completely underestimate. A woman doesn't fall for you through your words. She falls through what she feels in the silence between the words. And nothing amplifies that silence more than the right kind of eye contact. I'm not talking about staring at her like you're trying to hypnotize her. I'm talking about steady, grounded, masculine presence behind your eyes. The kind that makes her feel your confidence without you saying a thing. Women read eye contact faster than they read intentions. A man who is insecure shows it in the flicker of his gaze. A man who is needy shows it in the way he looks at her for validation. But a man who is centered, calm, and unattached to the outcome creates a tension she can feel in her chest. That's the difference between eye contact that makes her uncomfortable and eye contact that melts her resistance. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology ever talked about it. Marcus Aurelius said that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and that shows up in your eyes before it shows up in your actions. If your thoughts are anxious, your gaze will feel scattered. If your thoughts are fearful, your gaze will feel weak. But if your thoughts are grounded in self-command, your gaze becomes warm, steady, and inviting. That is the kind of eye contact a woman cannot ignore. Here's what men get wrong. They think seduction comes from intensity. It doesn't. Seduction comes from control. When your eye contact is relaxed but unbroken, you're communicating two powerful things at once. First, that you are present. And second, that you are not seeking her approval. That combination puts her feminine instinct into a very specific state. She feels seen but not examined, desired but not chased, important but not worshipped. And that balance lowers her guard in a way that words never could. Controlled eye contact shows her that you're not rushing, you're not nervous, and you're not trying to impress. You're simply there, fully. And that presence activates something primal in her. Feminine energy softens when it meets a masculine gaze that isn't demanding anything in return. Most men break eye contact first because they fear being exposed. But the man who can hold it calmly is the one she remembers later when she's lying in bed replaying the moment. She won't admit that to you, of course, but she feels it. That melting sensation is her body reacting to the certainty in yours. Now listen closely. If you want to take this to the next level, you need to learn how to hold eye contact without emotional leakage. No neediness, no attachment, no expectation. When she feels that steadiness, you separate yourself instantly from the average man she meets. Before we continue, if you want deeper training on masculine presence, eye contact, and the psychology behind feminine attraction, consider joining the membership. That's where I break things down in ways I can't fully do here. Now, if you've ever held eye contact with a woman and watched her energy shift, comment "I felt that." Stay with me, because the next part will show you how physical presence becomes a silent invitation she can't resist. Number 5. The touch that feels illegal to her mind. Folks, let's be real for a second. Most men mess up physical touch because they rush it, force it, or make it awkward. Women don't react to touch because of the touch itself. They react to the intention, the pace, and the emotional temperature behind it. A touch only feels powerful when it feels earned. And when it feels earned, it hits her body in a way that feels almost forbidden, like she shouldn't want it as much as she does. Let me give you a real situation so this becomes crystal clear. Think about Daniel, a 48-year-old contractor from Arizona, recently divorced, trying to date again, but constantly overthinking physical contact. Every time he liked a woman, he reached too quickly, too obviously, and it shut things down fast. Then he met Melissa, 42, a marketing manager. Instead of rushing, Daniel slowed down. He focused on presence, eye contact, calm energy. And when the moment finally came, just a light touch on her lower back as they walked into a cafe, Melissa leaned into it. He didn't pull her. She drifted closer. That's what happens when a touch feels earned. Women feel everything. They pick up your heartbeat in your fingertips. If you're tense, they feel it. If you're needy, they feel it. But if you're grounded, steady, and confident, your touch communicates something primal. It tells her she is safe, she is desired, and she doesn't have to overthink anything. That is the moment her resistance melts. Not because of what you did, but because of how you were. There's a principle in psychology. The body reacts before the mind interprets. When your touch is slow, intentional, and respectful, you activate her nervous system in a way that feels deep, warm, and electric. It feels illegal in the sense that part of her wonders, why do I feel this so strongly? That confusion is what makes her lean closer instead of pulling away. Now here's the trick most men never figure out. Your touch has to follow the emotional rhythm you created earlier. If your presence was calm, your voice steady, your eye contact grounded, then your touch must match that same energy. Never jump levels. Never escalate faster than her comfort. Let her body come to you. Women respond strongest to touch when they feel like they wanted it before you gave it. Think about it like this. A powerful touch is not a move, it's a moment. It's the brief contact on her hand when you hand her a glass. It's the guiding touch on her shoulder as you step aside. It's the grounding touch on her lower back when you walk through a doorway. These tiny moments, done right, do more to pull a woman in than any bold, dramatic gesture ever could. When a woman enjoys your touch, she doesn't say it. She shows it. She breathes differently. She tilts her body closer. She stays in your space longer than necessary. And if you stay calm, she will escalate for you without even realizing she's doing it. Now, before we move to the next part, tell me this. Have you ever touched a woman and instantly felt her energy shift? Comment, I felt that. Stick with me, because next we're talking about the slow pace that turns her body on before she even notices it happening. Number 6, the slowness that turns her body on. My friend, here's something most men never understand. Women are not turned on by speed. They are turned on by anticipation. And anticipation only exists when you slow the entire interaction down. The slower your energy, the faster her desire rises. Because slowness gives her mind space to imagine, to project, to feel. When you rush, she thinks. When you slow down, she reacts. Slowness is not laziness. It is control. It's the ability to stay present in the moment without trying to force anything. When a woman is with a man who moves slowly, speaks slowly, and reacts slowly, she feels something in her body that she can't put into words. Her nervous system actually shifts. Her breathing changes. Her walls lower. Not because you did something dramatic, but because your pace tells her she doesn't need to protect herself. This is why Stoicism fits so naturally into attraction. The Stoics talked constantly about command over one's impulses. Seneca said that he who rushes ahead shows he has not mastered himself. Slowness is a visible form of mastery. It tells her you're not ruled by impulse, not desperate for an outcome, and not trying to impress. And that, ironically, impresses her more than anything else. Think about the energy of a man who takes his time. He doesn't jump into conversation too quickly. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He doesn't lean forward the moment he feels attraction. He lets the moment breathe. That breathing room is what makes her feel something in her stomach. It makes her wonder about you. It makes her study your face, your voice, your presence. A woman's attraction grows in the space you create, not in the pressure you apply. Slowness also signals abundance. A man who rushes communicates fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of missing an opportunity. Fear of not being enough. But a man who slows down communicates confidence. He acts as if he has options, as if he is choosing her, not chasing her. And women feel the difference instantly. Her desire rises when she feels like she's earning your attention rather than being flooded with it. Here's the subtle part. Slowness works because it deepens the emotional rhythm between you and her. When your voice lowers, when your movements soften, when you take a beat before responding, she feels your steadiness. That steadiness becomes arousal in her body. It's psychological, chemical, and primal. She might not consciously know why she's drawn in, but she feels it. And that feeling is what makes her lean closer. Most men lose attraction by doing too much. The man who understands slowness creates attraction by doing less. You don't need to push the moment. You just need to let her feel the moment. The slower you are, the more she fills in the empty space with curiosity, desire, and imagination. And that is what pulls her toward you. Now, before we move on, tell me this in the comments with 3 simple words. I feel this. Stay tuned, because next we're talking about the exact words that make her crave more without you sounding rehearsed or needy. Number 7, the words that make her crave more. All right, folks, let's talk about something men misunderstand all the time. Women don't crave more because of fancy lines or clever flirting. They crave more because of how your words make them feel about themselves and about you. What she remembers isn't the sentence. It's the emotional impact behind the sentence. And most men completely miss this. Let me show you what I mean with a real-world example. Picture Mark, a 52-year-old real estate broker from Colorado. Solid guy, successful. But when it came to dating, he relied too much on compliments. He'd meet a woman like Jenna, a 45-year-old HR director, and go straight into, "You're beautiful, you're amazing, you're stunning." It didn't land. It didn't spark anything. Because those words were about her looks, not her experience of him. Then something changed. Mark started using a different style of communication. Instead of praising her, he spoke in a way that invited curiosity. After Jenna said something clever, he simply looked at her and said, "I like the way your mind works." That one line shifted her energy. She leaned in. She wanted more. Why? Because those words didn't flatter her. They recognized her. Women crave that more than beauty compliments, more than small talk, more than effort. The right words are not about intensity, they're about direction. They guide her attention toward the connection between the two of you instead of placing her on a pedestal. When your words make her feel something in her body rather than in her ego, that's when she starts craving more. There's another layer here you need to understand. Women respond strongest to words that feel grounded, slow, and intentional. One steady sentence is far more seductive than 10 excited ones. For example, instead of saying, "I really like spending time with you," in a rushed, enthusiastic tone, you say it calmly, almost quietly. "I like the way you feel to be around." It hits completely differently. This style of communication works because it creates emotional rhythm, the same rhythm we talked about earlier. You're not trying to impress her. You're letting her feel your sincerity without pressure. When she senses that, her guard lowers and her curiosity spikes. She starts thinking about what it would feel like to be around your energy more often. Women crave words that anchor them in the moment. Words that are simple, calm, and confident. Words that don't push, don't beg, and don't try too hard. When your tone is slow and your intention is steady, even a short sentence becomes powerful. Here's what you must remember. The goal is not to excite her. The goal is to ground her. A grounded woman becomes open. An open woman becomes curious. And a curious woman starts chasing the connection. Think about the difference between a man who says, "You look great," and a man who says, "There's something about you that I like." One speaks to her appearance. The other speaks to the energy between you. And trust me, she feels that difference all the way down. Before we move on, tell me this in the comments with 3 simple words. I want this. Don't go anywhere. Because next, we're unlocking the pursuit instinct she hides even from herself. Number 8. The distance that makes her chase first. My friend, let's talk about something most men misunderstand completely. Distance is not about pulling away to punish her. It's not about games, tricks, or emotional manipulation. The distance I'm talking about is the kind that comes from strength, not strategy. It is the kind of masculine space that makes a woman feel your presence even when you aren't physically there. And when a woman feels that kind of presence, she naturally moves toward it. Most men suffocate attraction without even realizing it. They over-communicate, over-explain, over-pursue, and over-invest. They fill every silence, answer every message instantly, and hover around her attention, like they're afraid of losing it. But here's the truth. Folks never say out loud, desire cannot breathe when you don't give it any room. A woman can only miss you if she feels the space where you should be. That space is what makes her curiosity wake up. That space is what turns interest into hunger. Stoicism explains this better than psychology sometimes. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." A man who lives that way doesn't cling. He doesn't chase. He doesn't panic. He moves with calm intention. And that calm intention creates a quiet distance that women feel instantly. Not as rejection, but as stability. Not as coldness, but as confidence. Women are drawn to men who aren't overstimulated by them. Here's the part most men never learn. Distance becomes attractive only when it's paired with genuine presence. If you're cold when you're with her, distance just feels like disinterest. But if you're warm, grounded, intentional, and attentive when you're together, then your distance later becomes magnetic instead of confusing. She thinks about the way you made her feel, and suddenly that space you left becomes something she leans into, not something she runs from. This works because distance shifts the energy between you. It takes her out of the comfortable role of being pursued and places her into the role of choosing. Women want to choose. They want to move toward a man on their own terms. When you give her that freedom, she feels desire without pressure. She starts checking your messages more often. She starts initiating more. She starts wondering what you're doing, who you're with, and why she's thinking about you this much. And the moment a woman starts wondering, the chase begins naturally. But remember this, the moment you use distance to manipulate, it loses its power. Women feel everything. They know when distance comes from insecurity. They know when you're trying to get a reaction. But when distance comes from purpose, from discipline, from a life that doesn't revolve around her, she respects it. She even craves it. That is what turns masculine space into attraction rather than conflict. So let me ask you this, my friend. Have you ever stepped back and watched her interest rise on its own? Comment, "I've felt this." Stay tuned. because the next part reveals the vulnerability that gets under her skin in ways she won't forget. Number 9. The vulnerability that gets under her skin. Folks, let's be real here. Most men hear the word vulnerability and think it means opening the floodgates, confessing every insecurity, or dumping their emotional history on a woman who barely knows them. That isn't vulnerability. That's emotional unloading. And emotional unloading doesn't pull a woman closer. It pushes her away. The kind of vulnerability that gets under her skin is subtle, controlled, and grounded in strength. It's the kind a grown man can show without losing his center. Let me paint you a picture so this hits home. Take someone like Robert, a 49-year-old sales manager from Ohio. Solid guy, disciplined, works out, keeps his life together. But every time he dated, he stayed too guarded. He believed showing any softness meant weakness. Then he met Vanessa, 44, a therapist. During one conversation, she asked him why he values solitude so much. Instead of brushing it off, Robert said, "I like quiet because it helps me think clearly. When things get chaotic, I lose that calm and it bothers me more than I'd like to admit." He didn't spill trauma. He didn't overshare. He revealed just a thin slice of his interior world, and that one moment changed her entire energy. She leaned closer, her voice softened, her curiosity deepened. Why? Because true vulnerability is not about exposing everything. It's about letting her see something real behind the strength. Women respond to that because it makes the connection feel human, not performative. The key is this: vulnerability only works when it comes from a man who is clearly in control of himself. If your life is chaotic, vulnerability sounds like instability. But if your life is solid, vulnerability sounds like depth. Women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s crave depth more than they crave perfection. They've already dated perfect resumes. What they want now is a man who feels real, grounded, and emotionally honest without being emotionally dependent. Controlled vulnerability works because it disarms her in a way intensity can't. It shows her that behind your calm presence and masculine frame, there is an inner world you rarely show. And when she feels like she's getting access to something other women don't get, her attraction shifts from curiosity to intimacy. That intimacy is what gets under her skin. Here's what most men don't realize. Women remember how a man makes them feel, not what he says. When your vulnerability is steady and selective, she feels safe around you. She feels trusted. She feels chosen. And that sensation is addictive. Not because you overshared, but because you shared just enough to let her feel the connection becoming real. A man who hides everything feels cold. A man who shares everything feels unstable. But a man who reveals the right things at the right moments feels irresistible. Now tell me this, my friend. Have you ever shared one honest sentence and watched her whole energy shift? Comment, "I saw that." Don't go anywhere, because the final part will show you the masculine gravity she can't escape, no matter how hard she tries. Number 10. The masculine gravity she can't escape. My friend, this final piece is the one most men never master. They think attraction is about what you say, how you look, or how much effort you put in. But the truth is simple. The kind of attraction that stays, the kind that keeps a woman thinking about you long after the moment ends, comes from something deeper, something steadier, something she feels in her body before she ever puts it into words. It comes from masculine gravity. Masculine gravity isn't force. It isn't dominance. It isn't pressure. It's the quiet pull created by a man who is grounded in who he is and where he is going. A man who doesn't need to chase because he is already in motion. A man whose presence feels like a place, not an act. When a woman encounters that, it stays with her. Not because you captured her, but because you centered yourself. This kind of gravity starts with purpose. Not dramatic purpose, not change the world purpose, but a direction, a mission. Something in your life that continues with or without anyone else's approval. Women feel that immediately. A man who is guided by purpose radiates stability. His energy doesn't wobble. His emotions don't leak. His attention isn't desperate. He moves like someone who knows his value without needing to explain it. Then comes emotional composure. Not the cold kind, not the distant kind, the calm kind, the kind that shows you can feel without falling apart. Women crave men who can hold space without collapsing. When she expresses frustration, you don't panic. When she's unsure, you don't beg. When the moment gets intense, you stay steady. That steadiness becomes the anchor she didn't know she needed. It makes her feel safe around you, and safety is the foundation of desire. Next is depth. Masculine gravity has layers, stillness, curiosity, restraint. A man who isn't easily shaken becomes memorable because he's different. Most men react to everything. You respond. Most men chase validation. You stay rooted. Most men adjust themselves to win approval. You hold your frame and let the right people fit into your world. That difference is irresistible. And finally, there is presence. True presence means your attention is clean. You're not multitasking. You're not performing. You're not strategizing. You're simply there, fully. Whether it's a conversation, a glance, or a moment of silence, she feels your awareness locked into the now. That kind of presence is rare. And whatever is rare becomes valuable. Masculine gravity is not something you do. It's something you become. It takes shape through your habits, your discipline, your boundaries, your philosophy, and your willingness to stay true to yourself, even when emotions run high. A man who embodies that becomes the kind of man a woman thinks about even when she tries not to. Not because he manipulated her, not because he played games, but because his energy lingered. When you live this way, attraction stops being something you pursue. It becomes something you naturally pull in. Women don't escape that because there's nothing to escape. There is only the quiet strength of a man who knows himself. And that, my friend, is the real secret. You've just learned the real psychology behind effortless attraction. Not games, not tricks, but presence, slowness, depth, distance, and masculine gravity. When you apply these things, you stop chasing and start becoming the man women feel drawn to without even understanding why. That's the power of self-command and Stoic masculinity. If you want deeper training and exclusive lessons I can't share publicly, join the membership. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Thank you for watching, my friend. I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow.